top 5 reasons you should homeschool this fall. I'm Emily Fort with the Homeschool Freedom Coalition, and I'll give you my list and you tell me what you think. First off, I was homeschooled my whole life. I'm one of 11 kids. All of us were homeschooled our whole lives. We have 42 kids between us that are all homeschooling. I worked for 5 years for a homeschool curriculum company in the office, and then I spent 5 more years out on the road doing homeschool conventions for them. And so I have kind of the inside ear, of tens of thousands of homeschoolers over the last 10, 15 years that I've spoken with. And so I'm going to list the top 5 reasons I'm hearing from parents that they've chosen to homeschool. And you tell me which of these reasons apply to you, if these help make decisions for you, if you need to take these to your husband or whatever, and talk to your kids. People need to make this decision. Hopefully some of these 5 points will help you. So I'm just going to jump right in. The number one reason that most people are homeschooling that I know, that I think you should homeschool as well, is to protect your child's heart and mind. And that might seem really kind of like mushy-gushy, but in reality, we see that after decades of an education system that has taught us and parents in general that we can have an education system that's totally secular and they'll still turn out to be just generally good, happy, well-adjusted adults. Well, we see now that's just absolutely not true. Like we see millions and millions of adults that once you removed the purpose of education and the purpose of life, right? The purpose of why you do anything you do, when you took Christianity out of the curriculum, you took away the why behind everything. And so you might think, well, that's, I'm not a Christian. I don't really care. That's fine. You don't have to be a Christian, but you have to recognize that when you remove the Christianity that underpinned, America's education system, they took the why out. Why bother to be a good person? Why bother to work hard? Why bother to have high character? Why bother to deal with adversity and conflict? What's the point of all of it? If we are nothing but ooze and stardust or whatever it is they think now or they're saying now in the schools, then there's no point to anything. There's no right or wrong. There's no ultimate cause. There's only be a billionaire so you can be happy, or just be a miserable, pointless, you don't have the money to buy happiness, and there's no point to anything you do, and there's no right or wrong, and anyone who hurts you is just, follow your heart. It's just impossible to find a way through the difficulties of life with anything like a well-adjusted attitude, with any emotional well-being, when there's no purpose to anything. And so to protect my child's mind and heart from that, the epidemic we're seeing of kids who are unhappy, anxiety, depression, is it nutritional? Is it, what is it? Is it bullying? Is it all these other things? I think people like Jordan Peterson are speaking into that gap again. His solution is you need to find a purpose. Well, yes, but I just spent 15 years in education being told there isn't one, essentially. And so, yeah, find a purpose. Well, it's a little late. I wish I'd have known since I was 5 years old that there was a purpose to my life. And he's saying, introduce adversity. You need adversity. Well, wouldn't it have been great if starting at 5 years old, you knew that adversity exists and it's good for you and there's a purpose to it as well? So number one, protect your child's mind and heart from those sorts of things. That sort of idea that you're not important because nothing you do matters, because when you die, there's nothing. When you live, there's nothing. There's no absolutes. If you happen to become famous, then you have every right to be happy. But short of a billionaire who's famous, it's just life's pretty meh, we're trying to get away from that. Education has to have purpose. Our lives have to have purpose. Adversity has to have a purpose, or we end up with a lot of very, very, very unhappy and easily radicalized young people. And we're trying to protect our kids from that by homeschooling them to say, no, you matter. The choices you make matter. The life you're going to live matters. The kids you're going to raise, the work you're going to do, it all matters, right? So that's probably my biggest number one point, and why I'm homeschooling my kids, and why a lot of people were like, hey, my kids are just, not loving school. And at a macro level, I think that's why. So the number 2 point would be to protect your child's body. And I think this would probably be number 1. Maybe I think you could always run these lists what's the most important in severity or frequency. In this one, this is probably the most important and should be number 1 in severity. But it should go without saying that you have to homeschool your child or get them out of government education if you're worried about the safety of their body. And by that, I mean, if your child is being bullied, assaulted, harassed, tormented, if they are being exposed to illegal substances, if they're being exposed to things on devices that are likely to be harmful to them. If your child is in any danger, and I don't mean today they're in danger of being, I that's gonna have to be edited out. I don't mean today they're in any danger like of being something that serious. I'm saying if long term what they're being exposed to will be harmful to their mind or body. So if the bully is not being addressed, if the person who assaulted them just got moved to a different class, if, the teacher who bullied them or the employee who, took a pass at them in their high school, class, whatever, if that situation goes on, your child will be harmed. That's danger, and you need to get your child out of danger. So for many, many, many parents, probably the majority that I speak with, their child is in some form of danger, physically, mentally, or emotionally, that they will be harmed grievously and have to recover from something that's happening to them in the school. If that's your child, absolutely discussion over. You don't need the other points. That could be point one and point done for your family. We're homeschooling because our child is in danger. And the sooner that you get them out of that, the sooner you can start to heal them and they can actually focus on relationship and education and the things that kids are supposed to be focusing on. So that, again, that's probably the most popular right now is my kids are, I'm worried about their safety mentally or physically. And so that's number two. The third reason I think many, many people are choosing to homeschool is it kind of ties in with number one, and it's to strengthen the family bond or protect the family bond, essentially. So that would be when a kid is put in a school at 5 years old and spends most of their waking hours away from the family starts to lose its place in the child's mind. The family is no longer, the driving force and the driving connection in their life. And so I'm in that like later millennial group where we've read all these parenting books and know all about these methodologies, gentle parenting, authoritarian parenting, and everywhere in between and all the things. And, I was homeschooled. I'm one of 11 kids. Like you can guess what kind of parenting I grew up in. And so I read all the books to see what else is out there. And I'll just say this, studies are coming out now that it doesn't really matter which parenting method you choose. The most important descriptor or the most important predictor of solid, healthy, emotional relationships between parents and children as adults is the connection and the attachment bond that the families have. And it doesn't matter, again, which parenting method you choose. If the attachment isn't there, the outcomes go down. And so as a parent, I know, how can I strengthen the bond and the attachment between me and my kids? Well, one of the critical ways is by taking the number of hours I'm with them in a day from 2 hours waking hours a day to 10. That's a pretty significant jump. And then same thing for, my husband when he comes home from work. If he gets the kids awake for 40 minutes from supper to bed to homework to bath to bedtime, how much respect are they going to have for their daddy? How much are they going to listen to his opinion? How much are they going to think that he has anything to offer them? It's like, I want to protect my family bond. And to do that, I need actual hours with my kid. Something they told everybody in the 90s is, oh, kids don't need a quantity of time. They need quality of time. Well, there are no studies behind that whatsoever, or at least not any good ones. It's like, no, kids don't just need 30 minutes a day with the primary adult in their life who exists to shape and guide them, right? And especially if you think about the way the school system is set up, what you have is these adults are changing out constantly. So they don't have one constant source for them to get some identity from and some grounding and some attachment to, because every 45 minutes we've got a new random adult in front of us. And then every fall we get a new batch of adults. It's like, that's not biologically normal. That's not how humanity has done this for all of human history. It's just swapping out your authority figures every 45 minutes and then getting a whole new batch every year. It's like, no, it is much more normative for our family and our family relationships to be the things that ground kids and give them a sense of deep security. And I want that for my kids. I'm not going to send my kids out to have a new random adult figure telling them what's important and who they are every 45 minutes, 8 hours a day. It's just not going to happen. So that's the number 3 reason, is to protect our family bond and hopefully insulate our kids against that sort of, all the issues that it creates when you grow up to not feel like you're part of a family, to not feel a solid sense of identity, to not feel secure in your attachment to your folks, to not feel like they have anything to offer you or were ever there, for the big moments of your life, because you're spending 9 hours a day, 9 months a year away from them. And it's like that. I don't want that for my kids. And I think a lot of parents have chosen, you know what? This little experiment of kids can be raised by strangers isn't working out. It's not. And so we see the result of giving our kids to strangers who don't believe what we believe and trusting them because they're experts to turn us out these happy, well-adjusted, well-connected adults. That just hasn't happened. Parents are fleeing from that. That's another big reason that I see. The fourth reason would be along the lines of customizing the child's education. And I think this cuts, again, I don't know how to rank this list in the most important to me or the most serious problems you're trying to solve or the most common problem. But this is another very, very common thing. I literally heard this tens of thousands of times over the last 15 years from parents. And it's essentially, my kid's not getting what they need at the school. And they have a program, but the program is basically for kids that need to get rubber stamped, or they're not really challenging my kiddo, or my kid's bored all day long because he's above average. So he's taking up the average of the classroom, but they won't put him forward into higher grade levels or more difficult material. And so my kid's bored out of his mind. Well, now he's acting out and they're blaming him and they want to put him on medication and on and on and on. I heard that story literally twice a day for years on end. And then you go to conventions and hear the same thing, but on, rapid pace. And it's like homeschooling offers you the ability to customize your kid's education in a way that no traditional school or any online school, even, K-12, things like that, are going to be able to do. And that's like, hey, my kid is at this reading level, so I'm going to give him, that level of work in reading. And he's at that math level, so I'm going to give him at this math level. And I can customize the curriculum based on their learning style. He really needs a lot of review, a lot of repetition. So I'm going to choose a math curriculum that has a lot of repetition and review. And over here in reading, he's reading 3 years above his grade level. So I'm going to give him, this writing curriculum, this composition work, and he's going to just read, 1,000 pages a month, whatever it is. You get to choose and you get to challenge your kid in the way that they respond to, and hopefully, in most cases, see a much better outcome. And yes, this is a typical thing that I know happens is like, well, I chose the wrong math curriculum, but he's really not loving it. Then get another one. It's okay. You can do it. Like, you're still doing more and your kid is seeing your effort to help them, right? That's more than they ever got from the teacher who had about 9 seconds a day to pay attention to them and just shove more worksheets at them that you ended up having to do at home anyway. So yes, you might have to tweak a few things. That eclectic method, it takes a little while to figure out exactly what each kid needs at which grade level and which subjects, but it's good. It's not a problem to have a lot of options and ability to customize your kid's curriculum and customize their education experience. If your kid's very social, they can be in a co-op. If they do well on their own, you can just hand them their stack of books and check in with them and see how they're doing. If they're very fast and they work through their books very quickly, they can graduate early. If they need extra help and time, you can get a tutor, you can get a homeschool mom mentor, you can have them go to a co-op for just that class. You can buy 5 different math curriculums and try to find the learning style that they would respond to. The point is, in homeschooling, you have these options and you're not having to fight some administrator and fight some educrat, some bureaucrat paid by the government to educate your kid and fight them to advocate for your kid. It's like, you don't have to advocate to anyone. You are the advocate and you get to do whatever you think is best for them. And I think that's incredible. And I think that's why a lot of people are choosing to homeschool. And if you're dealing with that situation and you've been fighting that system, come homeschool. Hey, find a homeschool mom, email in, we'll help you. Half the ladies here, half the people on staff have already run ministries and organizations dedicated to helping mom find the right fit for their curriculum. So if you need actual hands-on one-on-one help to find a curriculum for your student, give us a message. If that's what's holding you back, let's go. We'll help you. Message in. Let's get you started before the school year ends or before the school year starts. I think the last thing that is not as common, or at least people don't choose to homeschool because they want this, but after they've homeschooled a while, they're like, this is the best part of homeschooling. And that is protecting your family's freedom. And I don't mean political freedom. I mean your freedom to be your own family. Like, if you want to go live in an RV and, you guys, parents work from home or whatever, as long as you have your Starlink on the roof of the RV, you can go travel and do whatever you want. You can go whatever calendar you want. You can take whatever breaks you want. You can study whatever topics you want, however in depth that you want. And so, hey, guess what? The whole entire school system is on break this week, but that means every park, campground, and everything is swamped. Well, we're not going to take break this week. We're going to take a break next week when all those kids are back in school and the campground is empty and the state park is empty and, everything is cheaper and all the Airbnbs are on sale. We're going to go when we want to go. We're going to do what we want to do. We have more flexibility of where we live. You don't have to worry about, oh, well, that's zoned in a really bad school, so we can't live there, even though the cost of living would be better, or the house we love is better, or we can get more land out there, whatever it is. You can go wherever you want, live wherever you want, homeschool wherever you want. Your family schedule is your own. Now, I live in Texas, and just to be clear, I have siblings homeschooling in 7 or 8 different states. I really should, I should make a list. But the point is, here in Texas, I homeschool year round because the 3 summer months are really 5 summer months in Texas. Why on earth would my kids want to be outside when it's 110? They don't want to be outside, so we don't take a summer break. But then in October, we take most of October off and we go on field trips and we go to state parks and we go camping and we do all the things because it's cheaper, it's cooler, the weather is cooled off and there's no crowds and we can do what we want and we can meet up. We do this with other homeschool families. We all go camping at the same state park at the same time. Our families can work their schedules around each other. And instead of, oh no, I'm going to get a truancy letter if I take a week off, do what you want to do. It's so enriching to your family. It's so freeing to go, whatever you want to do, babe, let's do it. There's no other adults saying, no, you absolutely must be here Tuesday at 2:00, or we're going to send the sheriff's department to your house. Dump that garbage, start homeschooling. Again, I don't think a lot of people choose to homeschool because of this, but it is one of the biggest things that people mention once they've homeschooled for 3 or 4 years. I just did not realize how much my family's life was being dictated by the school system. And I'm so done with that. I having to drop everything for pickup and drop off and all the little parties and all the little, the days I had to be there or I was a bad parent. And it's like, you know what? You're spending 20 times as much time with your kids homeschooling them. And you don't have to drop everything for some arbitrary kids party at 2 p.m. You can plan that into your life and enjoy this. So that's my list of 5. You definitely can have different ones. You don't have to share all of those. You might even disagree with some of those. That's fine. Sound off in the comments if I missed any. Now, one last thing I'll say is I know that it's July, and so a lot of people are trying to decide right now, should we put our kids back in? Should we find some other way? Should we try that homeschooling thing? At this point, homeschooling has become so normalized that everybody knows people that are homeschooling, and everybody knows you're not going to turn out into some weirdos. I mean, I guess that's, maybe I'm a weirdo. That's fine. But the point is, this is the time people are making these decisions. And so I want to offer some thoughts that, you guys can discuss, you and your family, and come and hopefully add to this discussion. I will be putting out some videos in the coming weeks, again, hopefully yet here in July, talking about methods of homeschooling, types of curriculum. But sound off in the comments. Please tell me if you're looking for videos about what's the cheapest homeschool curriculum option, or what's the best math, or what are the different types of math, or what are the different, if there's a question that you're worried about that's holding you back from making this decision, throw it in the comments. I'll try to get a video made for you. And hopefully you can make this big decision and we can get your kids into a homeschool situation and move forward from there. Thank you so much for your time watching today. Stay free, stay the course.